أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم يا كريم واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Shahr Ramadan Barak to all of you, inshallah. For those who don't know, today was the first of the month of Ramadan, according to the blessed Maraja, Sayyid Al-Khou'i, Sheikh Wahid, Sayyid Stani, and even Sayyid Al-Hakim. So for all the followers of those Maraja living in Windsor, Shahr Ramadan started today. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We ask Allah Ta'ala to accept our deeds in this holy month and to make us from those who are sincere and continue worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obeying Him throughout the year. Today, inshallah, we're going to learn or review some essential laws concerning fasting. So for those who don't know, inshallah, you'll learn something new. And for those who know, we will refresh our minds about essential Islamic laws concerning fasting. So first of all, we're going to start with the intention. If any of you have a question throughout the presentation, feel free to ask. Before we speak about the intention, it's important to realize that we have different types of fasting. So, first of all, we have a wajib fast, a fast that's mandatory, compulsory, and that fast is divided into two categories. Number one, what we call wajib muayyan, and number two, what we call wajib muwassa. Wajib muayyan is basically a fast that must take place in a specific time. For example, the clearest example is the month of Ramadan. To fast the month of Ramadan, you have to fast in Ramadan. You can't fast the month of Ramadan in Rajab or Muharram. That fast has to fall in this month. Fasting a specific day one swore to fast on. That's another example. So for example, you say, Wallah la asumanna yawm al-khamis al-ati. I swear by Allah, I shall fast the upcoming Thursday. This means that on the upcoming Thursday, you must fast. It's compulsory. You made it compulsory on yourself. The other type of fast is wajib muwassa, which is also wajib. However, you have time to do it. It doesn't have to fall on a certain day, on a specific day. For example, qada shahr Ramadan, making up the fast of the month of Ramadan. When are you supposed to make up the fast? In Muharram, in Safar, in Sha'ban, in which month? You have time. You can make it up in any month you want, as long as you're fasting on a day in which it's not haram to fast, as we shall see. So you can make up the fast whenever you want. Yes, if you delay making up the fast of the month of Ramadan till the next Shahr Ramadan, then you'll have to pay a kaffara called kaffarat al-ta'khir, which is also called a fidya. For every day you don't make up from the month of Ramadan, until the next Shahr Ramadan comes, you have to pay a fidya for every day. A fidya is how much? Does anyone know? What's a fidya? Approximately 3/4 of a kilogram of food. So you give 3/4 of a kilogram of food to one poor individual, one poor person. So basically it will cost you something around $1. That's one fidya. Another example of wajib muwassa is swearing to fast one day from a particular year without specifying what day it is. So if I say, Wallah la asumanna yawman fi hadhihi as-sana. Now it's wajib to fast one day from this year. But what day should I fast? It's up to me. As long as I fast within this 1 year, I'm okay. So it's wajib muwassa. I have time to do it, but it's still wajib. The other type of fasting is the recommended type, we have plenty of recommended fasts. Among them is fasting the 27th day of Rajab, the day of Mab'ath. Among them is fasting the day of Ghadir and other days. It's recommended to fast every Thursday and Friday amongst the days of the week, so on and so forth. In fact, it's mustahab to fast whenever you can. Just like salat is mustahab. Whenever you want, you can pray 2 rak'ahs. Similarly, whenever you want, you can fast a day. However, keep in mind that in certain days, it's haram to fast. What days are we talking about? Afwan? Eid al-Fitr. On Eid al-Fitr, it's haram to fast. Do we have another day when it's haram to fast? The 10th of Muharram? Ahsantum. 10th of Muharram, if you're fasting, if the fast is considered to be an insult to the Imam alayhi salam, to Imam al-Hussein or to Al-Bayt, or a person is fasting to rejoice for what befell Al-Bayt alayhi salam, it would be haram. Or else initially fasting the 10th of Muharram is makruh. It's disliked. Another example? Yes, Abrar? Eid al-Adha. The 2 Eids, Al-Eidain, it's haram to fast Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Do we have a third example of a haram fast? Something we call Sawm al-Wisal. What's Sawm al-Wisal? For example, you fast 2 consecutive days without breaking the fast with your intention. So basically, today we fasted. If my intention was continuous and I continued fasting through my intention till tomorrow, that would be Sawm al-Wisal. That's haram. In other words, when Maghrib kicks in, you have to break your fast at least by intention. If you don't want to eat, it's up to you. It's mustahab to eat and to drink. But you have to break the fast with your intention. If the fast continues, then that's Sawm al-Wisal. So fasting 2 consecutive days without breaking the fast with the intention is haram. A fourth example is fasting when you're traveling. In certain cases. In certain cases, it's haram. For example, I travel. I'm not kathir al-safar, number 1. And I travel during the morning, and I remain in the state of traveling till the afternoon. I don't return to my hometown till the afternoon. In this case, I have to break my fast. If I continue fasting, I'll be doing haram. It's haram to fast when you are traveling. Generally speaking, of course, there are exceptions. Keep in mind that there are exceptions. We also have a makruh fast. Can you think of a makruh fast? A fast that's disliked? Narjis? Muharram? Another day.
Fasting if your father or mother doesn't want you to fast.
That could fall under haram. Could fall.
I think from what I remember, I think it's makruh if your parents don't want you to.
Okay.
Don't like it. I think.
If you hurt them, then...
Yeah, no, but I think when it comes, there's a specific, it's specific to that.
Jayyid. Another example? Yes? That could be haram. It depends on the sickness and the amount of harm you're doing to yourself when you're fasting. Is it significant harm or not? Are you actually hurting yourself when you're fasting if you're sick or not? All of that has to be taken into consideration. On the day of Arafah, which is a day of dua, fasting is mustahab. But it's not mustahab if fasting will prevent you from doing dua, because dua is more important. So fasting the day of Arafah for someone who will be prevented from doing dua due to the fast will be makruh. Meaning his fast, the reward of his fast will be reduced. Jayyid. Today we want to focus mainly on fasting the month of Ramadan. Since we are fasting these blessed days, we want to focus on the intention and the mufattirat, the 10 invalidators. As you may know, or as you know, fasting is a worship, and so it needs a niyyah, it needs an intention. Suppose someone abstained from eating and drinking for the whole day, and abstained doing all the mufattirat, but did not have the intention of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is his fast valid or invalid? What is it? Invalid. Just like a person who washes his face and arms and wipes his head and feet, so he does the actions of wudu, but he doesn't have the intention of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such a person's wudu is invalid, batil. A person recites Surah Al-Fatiha, he does Takbirat al-Ihram, he goes into ruku', sujood, tashahhud and taslim. So he's doing the actions of prayer, but without an intention. His salat is void. Why? Because there is no niyyah. So niyyah is the spirit of the worship. Thus we need a niyyah. What's the niyyah in fasting? It is to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jayyid? You might tell me, Tayyib, what about if I'm fasting out of fear from entering hellfire? I say your niyyah is correct. What about if I'm fasting to enter paradise? I say your intention is correct. What about if I'm fasting just to get closer to Allah out of my love towards God subhanahu wa ta'ala? Also your fasting is correct. As long as you're doing it because God said so, your intention is good. But if someone is fasting to get thinner, right, to lose some pounds, and not to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fast is void. It's not correct. Now, when does the intention, when should the intention be made? In Shahr Ramadan. The intention should be present by what time? Dhuhr? Maghrib? Yes? Before Salat al-Subh. So basically by Fajr, by the real dawn, your intention must be present. You don't have to utter it. You don't have to think about it, as long as it's present in your heart. How do you know if it's present in your heart or not? Suppose someone stopped you and told you, what are you doing? If you would answer automatically, I'm fasting to get closer to Allah, that means your intention is in your heart. But if you wouldn't know what to answer, it means the intention is not there. So uttering the intention, or at least thinking about it, is good. It's good because it will help you focus with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will help you know what you're doing. Now, before we continue, a lot of us, or maybe all of us, use the timetable upstairs, right? The timetable with the timings about salat and iftar and all that. Why do we see a time for imsak and a time for morning prayer? Because we just said you have to refrain, you have to make your intention by Fajr time, right? So what is this imsak timing we see? Yes?
Imsak is like, that's when you stop eating, or like where you have to stop eating in that certain time.
Jayyid. Okay. But isn't it that we have to stop by Fajr? So why do we have one time for Salat al-Subh and one time for imsak? Quran says that you should stop eating and drinking at Fajr. حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر. نرجس. Why 20? Mm-hmm.
It says in the paper, I think it says it a little bit later than it is.
Ahsantum. Good. So basically, just to have a heads up, on the paper, what we're trying to do is we're trying to preserve your fast and your salat. In Shahr Ramadan, we have two obligations at Fajr. The first obligation is to fast, starting your fast. And the second obligation is Salat al-Fajr. So what the foundation here does is, suppose it determines the time of Fajr. According to astronomers, Fajr is at, for example, 4 a.m. What the Muassasa will do, they'll say morning prayer is at 4:10. Why? To make sure that the time of Fajr is started. Because if you pray before Fajr, your salat is void. Your prayer is void. On the other hand, it will say imsak is at 3:45. Why? Just for the sake of making sure that you're not eating after Fajr. because we're not able to pinpoint exactly when Fajr starts. Even if astronomers tell you it starts at 4, it's possible it's starting before 4. So just keep that in mind. Precaution is the safer way out. So for Shahr Ramadan and any fast that's wajib muayyan, your intention must be present by Fajr al-Sadiq, the real dawn. For wajib muwassa, such as qada Shahr Ramadan, making up the fast you lost in Shahr Ramadan, the intention must be made by dhuhr prayer. So by the time of the Islamic noon, the intention has to be there. What do we mean by this? Does that mean you can eat in the morning? Yes? No? You can't? So what do we mean here? Suppose you didn't eat and drink. You didn't do any of the mufattirat one day, but you did not intend to fast yet. It was 10 a.m. By 11 a.m., you said, you know what? I have some fasting to make up, so I'm going to do qada today. I'm going to fast qada of a day in Shahr Ramadan. So long that your intention is starting by noon prayer, you're fine, by the Islamic noon. But if the intention starts after the Islamic noon, the fast is not valid. As for mustahab, recommended fast, you have until Maghrib. In other words, as long as you can make your intention a moment before Maghrib, the fast is correct. Suppose one day you did not eat or drink, you didn't do any of the invalidators, but you did not intend to fast. And an hour before Maghrib, you realized that, you know what, let's try to gain some rewards. And you intended to fast an hour before Maghrib. Your fasting is okay. Your fasting is valid. I'll give you another example. Someone slept late last night, and he woke up at what time? 7 p.m. Subhanallah. Maghrib is at what time? 7:25. He said, you know what? This is a jackpot. Alhamdulillah. Nawaitu an asum qurbatan Allah ta'ala. His fasting is valid because he wants to fast mustahab. So as long as the intention is made a moment before Maghrib, his fasting is okay. Imam Ali alayhi afdal salatu wassalam used to do this. Imam Sadiq Taza salamullahi alayhi, that the commander of the faithful used to enter upon his family and ask if they had any food to offer. He would tell them, if you don't have food, I will fast. If they had food, they would bring it forth, and if they didn't, he would fast. So this was Imam Ali's habit, alayhi afdal salat wassalam. Any questions about the intention? Intention is clear, inshallah? Jayyid. Quran says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. And eat and drink until the whiteness of the day becomes distinct from the blackness of the night at dawn, then complete the fast till night. So again, you should stop eating and drinking at the real dawn. But since it's difficult to determine when the real dawn begins in these cities because of the lighting, then it's better to refrain eating a few minutes before Fajr. And that's why we have imsak timing. A person can eat and drink at night, however, he must refrain from them both and from all invalidators from the real dawn until Maghrib. Which means that the intention has to be continuous. If a person intends to fast, at 1 p.m. he starts thinking, how about if I have, a sandwich today? How about if I eat a burger at 4 p.m.? He's thinking to eat before Maghrib. This thought breaks the fast. It breaks the intention. And if the intention is broken, then the fast is void. So a person shouldn't hesitate whether he should continue fasting or not. He shouldn't intend to do a mufattar, because when you intend to do a mufattar, automatically you've broken your intention. Now, if you break your intention, what are you supposed to do? Are you allowed to eat after that? Yes? Ahsantum. You have to remain in imsak, which means that number one, your fast is void for that day. Number two, you can't do any of the invalidators until Maghrib. And number three, you have to make up that day. But there's no kafara. If a person doesn't actually eat or drink, he just breaks the intention, there's no kafara. One is not allowed to eat or drink or perform any invalidator before he is certain that the night has started. And it starts with Maghrib. So by the time you're allowed to pray Maghrib, it's iftar time. In other words, Maghrib time is the iftar time. One cannot break his fast before that whatsoever. Even if you assume that Maghrib time started, you're not allowed to break your fast until you're certain, until you have ilm. On the other hand, one is allowed to eat and drink so long that he doesn't know and there's no proof that Fajr has started. Just as you're not allowed to break your fast until you're certain Maghrib started, you're allowed to keep on eating and drinking at night until you're certain or you have proof that Fajr began. Just keep one point in mind, that if you don't practice precaution and you end up eating after the Fajr or drinking after the Fajr, then in many cases you have to do qada of that day. You have to make it up, and your fast on that day will be void. So just be careful with this fatwa, with this verdict. If a person eats or drinks or performs any invalidator before Maghrib, then we have three different scenarios. Scenario one, he was certain that Maghrib began. He ate, and then he realized, no, he was wrong. Maghrib did not start yet. So suppose it was really cloudy, and he thought that the night actually began. Then he realized that, no, it was still daytime when I ate. In this case, he must make up the fast for that day. He won't have sinned because he was certain that the night started. And he must remain in the state of imsak until Maghrib. Scenario two, there was a proof that Maghrib had begun, however, he wasn't certain it had. For example, two just witnesses testified that Maghrib started, but he wasn't certain, he didn't have yaqeen, 100% certainty. In this case, he must make up the fast, he won't have sinned, and he must remain in the state of imsak until Maghrib. So it's similar to scenario one, when you have certainty or there's a proof that you can rely on, a proof that's accepted Islamically, and you break your fast based on that certainty or based on that proof, then we come to the same conclusion. Scenario three, there was no proof that Maghrib began, nor was the person certain that it had begun. So no proof and no certainty. In this case, number one, he will have sinned. Number two, he must make up the fast and perform the kaffara. And number three, he must remain in the state of imsak for the remainder of the day. Any questions about these scenarios? Or about Fajr and Suhoor? No questions? Jayyid. So keep in mind that the intention must be made by Fajr, and it has to be continuous until Maghrib time. And one is not allowed to break his fast before Maghrib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can a person make one intention for the whole month, or should he renew his intention every day? Yes? Ahsantum. So you can do one intention from now. Intend, nawaitu an asum kulla shahr Ramadan qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. The invalidators. First and foremost, we have eating and drinking. Eating and drinking, yes.
If you made your intention and you broke your fast in the middle of Ramadan, do you have to redo your intention?
Yes, meaning it has to be present the next day. As long as it's present throughout the other days, that's enough. But if you actually think about the intention or you utter it, it's even better. Right. So the first two invalidators, the most obvious ones, are eating and drinking, right? It doesn't matter what you're eating, whether you're eating actual food, you're drinking pop, water, juices, or you're eating things that will kill you. Okay, you eat poison, for example. The fast is void. Okay, but your life is also void by then. Yani. Also, if you eat paper, you eat sand, you eat things that people don't usually eat, the fast will be broken. Similarly, if you drink things that people don't usually drink, again, the fast will be broken. And it doesn't matter, the quantity does not matter, whether you eat something small or big, or you drink something small or big, in the end of the day, the fast will be broken. Type. Now a question comes to mind. Since we can't eat and drink, when we have suhoor or we have iftar, we have bits and pieces of food that remain between our teeth. So is it wajib, is it mandatory to brush your teeth before fajr? Or to floss? Is that mandatory or not? The answer is we have two scenarios. Scenario one, the person isn't sure whether the remaining pieces of the food will be swallowed. So he's not sure. There's a possibility these pieces will be swallowed, and there's a possibility they won't. In this case, he doesn't need to brush the teeth or to floss. Scenario two, he is sure. The person is sure that throughout the day, as he's fasting, he will swallow these pieces. In this case, he has to floss. In other words, he has to clean his mouth to preserve the fast. This brings us to a second question. Are we allowed to brush our teeth while fasting? Are we or not? Karar. We are?
Yeah, but we have to be careful to swallow the water or the toothpaste.
Okay. Narjis? Same answer? Jayyid. So the answer is yes, a person is allowed. If the person is sure that no water or toothpaste will be swallowed and that all water or toothpaste is removed from the mouth, then he's allowed to brush his teeth. It's not a problem. However, keep in mind that if you're using the stick, the miswak, it is makruh, it is disliked to brush teeth with a humid wooden stick while fasting. So using that type of miswak is makruh. What if we're using the miswak, and when you're using the miswak, part of your saliva comes on the miswak. So if you remove it and you put it back into your mouth, will you have a problem or not? Will that break your fast? Yes. That saliva must be spat out. You have to spit it out. Unless it's dissolving in your mouth and becoming dilute. So it's basically dissolving and it no longer exists because it dissolved in the saliva in your mouth. Yes?
How about a toothpick? Is that okay? Use a toothpick?
Yeah, but same thing. So when you use a toothpick, if you take it out and there's saliva on it and you put it back in, you have to spit out that saliva. Unless it is dissolving in your mouth and becoming dilute. Now this takes us to a third question. What if a person swallows the water by mistake? So he's brushing his teeth and he was certain that he won't swallow water or toothpaste, and by mistake he swallowed the water. What happens to his fast? Yes? Not broken? A kid? جيد. Let's see. His fast will remain valid. So there will be nothing against him. His fast will be correct. And he will be required to remove any water or toothpaste left in his mouth. According to Sayyid Sistani, there's only one case in which the fast will become invalid, and that is when a person puts water in his mouth for the sake of feeling the coldness of the water so it may help him endure thirst. Only in that case. If you're putting water inside your mouth for the sake of feeling the coldness so that it may help you against the thirst you're feeling. Okay? If the water is swallowed in this case by accident, his fast will become invalid. He will have to remain in the state of imsak and perform qada after the month of Ramadan. But he will not be responsible of doing the kafara. This is one of the cases in which the fast is void, qada is compulsory, but there is no kafara. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If a person does it and they swallow the water, their fast is it broken or not?
No, for Sayyid Sani it's not. Yeah. For Sayyid Sani it's not. Jayid. So if you're doing wudu for a wajib salat or a mustahab salat and you rinse your mouth, okay, you do madmada, and you swallow the water by mistake, your fasting is okay. Similarly, if you put water inside of your mouth for no reason, abathan, no reason at all, and you swallow it by mistake, also your fast is fine. The only case in which the fast will be broken is if you put the water inside your mouth for the sake of feeling the coldness of the water so that it may help you endure the thirst. Yes?
Why is we do wudu with cold water and you spit it on one and then you spit it on?
Okay. As long as the purpose of putting the water in the mouth isn't to feel the coldness of the water, then you're okay. Yeah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Another issue is using a puffer. Some people have asthma and they need to use puffers even in Shahr Ramadan. Will puffers invalidate the fast or not? Yes or no, and why? Yes. Najis. Why not? Sometimes you need to take something. Mathalan, you need to take a medicine and you have to take it during the day, okay, because of a certain sickness. And so your fast will be broken. So if you swallow something, if you swallow medicine, then your fast is broken. فهون البuffer, yes.
You're not swallowing anything from the puffer.
Uh-huh. It's just air. Okay, we're getting closer to the answer. Abrar.
It's not going into your esophagus, it's going into your trachea, to your lungs. So, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's not considered to be your fast.
أحسنتم. جيد. So, to give a detailed answer, we'll say we have two scenarios, okay? A puffer can be used provided that the substance it blows goes only through the larynx, this tube over here, the respiratory tube, and not through the esophagus. If the substance is swallowed and goes down the esophagus purposely, it will invalidate the fast. So if it's only going through the respiratory tube, the larynx, you are fine. But if it goes down through the esophagus, you swallow it purposely, then the fast is void. If it goes down the esophagus by mistake, accidentally, then your fast is also valid, inshallah. And if you do end up using it, and it goes down the larynx, however, some of the substance remains in your mouth, then spit it out to preserve the fast. Make sure you don't swallow it. Any questions on the puffer? جيد. Injections and the likes, things that go through your body, through your muscles, won't invalidate your fast. As long as it's not going through your nose or through your mouth, inside your body. If something reaches the inside of the human being without passing through his throat, and the process of it going through his body cannot be called eating or drinking, the person's fast will remain in order. Of course, this excludes rectal enema, which is one of the mufattirat, one of the invalidators. Can you give me an example? Lotion. So the skin absorbs the lotion, but your fast will still be valid. Okay? Yes? Sunscreen. Okay. Supposing that the skin is absorbing it, right? Okay. Bad. Other examples of things that go through the body, but they don't go through the throat. Yes? Deodorant, does it go inside the body? Possibly, yes? Eye drops. Good. Eye drops and ear drops. They don't invalidate the fast. Rubbing alcohol on a wound. Okay, it's going inside the body, but it's not going to invalidate the fast. Instilling eardrops in the ear or eye drops in the eye. Injections in muscles. And IVs through the arm, for example. Even IVs don't break the fast. A knife going through a body part by accident. So you're, for example, cutting, lettuce, and the knife goes through your flesh. Your fasting is still valid. Keep in mind that bleeding doesn't invalidate the fast. Some people think that bleeding from a wound invalidates the fast. It does not. One should avoid inhaling solids or liquids through his nose because it invalidates the fast. So the nose is treated like the mouth. Don't inhale anything solid or liquid through your nose, just as you're not supposed to do that through your mouth. Not supposed to swallow anything, basically. And it is best to avoid having anything enter his digestive system through a passage other than his throat if it isn't considered to be eating or drinking. However, if it is considered eating or drinking, then one must avoid it. So what we're trying to say is basically avoid three things. Avoid having anything go through your mouth by swallowing it. Avoid anything going through your nose and then through your throat. And also avoid doing anything that's considered to be eating or drinking. Jayyid? Eating and drinking. If anything is called akil or shurb, that will be a problem for fasting. Any questions on this point? Yes?
So smoke counts, right? You can't inhale a lot of smoke?
Yes, we're going to get to that, inshallah. Yeah. The third invalidator is ascribing lies to Allah, the Messenger, or the 12 Imams, alayhim as-salatu salam. So, saying something that's not true about God, about the 12 Imams or the Prophet. For example, if you say Allah said so-and-so in the Quran, and you know He didn't say that, that would be ascribing a lie to God, Azza wa Jal. If you say Allah made this halal when it's really haram, or Allah made this haram when it's really halal, and you know that it's not halal or haram, like you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it in reality, in this case, you'll be ascribing a lie to Allah. So for example, if I say, it is forbidden to pray Salat al-Layl, when I know that it is allowed, in fact it's mustahab, I'm ascribing a lie to God. If I say it is lawful to drink wine, when I know that it's unlawful, then that's ascribing a lie to God subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam has said on this account, according to the narration, من كذب على الله ورسوله وهو صائم نقض صومه ووضوءه إذا تعمد. Whoever ascribes a lie to Allah and His Messenger intentionally will have invalidated his fast and his ablution, his wudu. Yes, a question might come to mind at the moment, and that is when we learn about the invalidators of wudu, ascribing Allah to Allah or the Messenger isn't mentioned as one of the invalidators. So what does the Imam mean, alayhi salam, when he says that the wudu will be invalidated? What do you think? Any guess? We have, yes.
So this is like a, like I never did this before, but
No problem.
you do wudu to purify yourself, so you're not pure anymore.
You're not pure anymore?
Like you're not purified for the fast.
Repeat your answer. I didn't understand it.
You do wudu to purify yourself for salah.
Okay.
So when you do this, you're not purified anymore for the fast.
Ahsantum. Okay, you're close. So basically, this will invalidate the fast. As for the wudu from a fiqhi perspective is still valid, even if you ascribe Allah to Allah and the Messenger. But ascribing Allah to Allah or the Messenger is a major sin. So you have spiritually contaminated your soul. To remove that contamination, wudu is needed. Even if you already have wudu, it's as if you've broken that spiritual purity. It's as if you've removed it. So the Imam tells you, renew your wudu. Does the Imam have a similar statement concerning Sawm? Yes, he does. He says, alayhi salam, Al-ghiba tufattar al-sa'im wa alayhi al-qada'. Backbiting when you're fasting invalidates your fast. And you have to make up that day, the day in which you backbit someone. But you might tell me when we learn fiqh, we mention only 10 invalidators and we don't mention ghiba as one of them. So what does the Imam mean here? Simply, he's telling you when you're fasting, yes, go ahead.
So another guess when you backbite,
Uh-huh.
you're eating your brother's or sister's flesh.
Ahsantum.
Basically like you're eating something. So you broke your fast because it's like you ate something.
Jayyid, good. And also, ghiba has a very bad effect on your soul. When you're fasting, obviously the purpose behind fasting is what? Yes? Getting closer to Allah. It's not about being hungry or thirsty. Hunger and thirst, they're a means to get closer to God subhanahu wa ta'ala. But ultimately, the whole purpose of fasting, or one of its main goals, is to reach piety, to fear Allah, to get closer to Him. So when you backbite, you're spiritually hurting yourself. You're doing a lot of harm on your spirit. Thus, it's as if you've nullified the fast. Although from a fiqh perspective, your fast is still valid. But from a spiritual perspective, you've lost a lot. So the Imam tells you, repeat it. Do qada. The fourth invalidator is immersing one's head in water. Immersing your head in, for example, a pool or a lake, so on and so forth. If you fill your bathtub in your house and you immerse your head in the water, also that will invalidate the fast. What is meant by head over here? Obviously, the parts over the neck. So all the parts over the neck, if a person immerses them at once under water or in the water, then the fast will be invalid. Is that for all maraja? For the majority of the maraja. This is the opinion of most maraja. However, Sayyid Sistani differs with them and considers this act to be very disliked while a person is fasting. It's very makruh. Yes, one shouldn't do it. On a personal level, I'd advise you, even if you follow Sayyid Sistani, don't immerse your head in the water, because the majority of the maraja consider it to be a mufattar. Yes? Splashing you is not a problem. Taking a shower, for example, it's not a problem. Yeah. But if you put your head at once under the water, then it's going to be a problem. Yes, if a person is wearing a helmet, like scuba divers do, okay? And he plunges in the water, his fast won't be broken because the helmet is making a barrier between the head and the water. The fifth invalidator is inhaling thick dust or thick smoke intentionally. So a person can't smoke or do smoke hookah, for example, as he is fasting. At the same time, he cannot inhale any thick dust, whether the dust comes from a halal source, something that he could eat, such as flour, or it's coming from a haram source, such as soil and rocks, because one is not allowed to eat soil, dirt, or rocks. So in both cases, if there's thick dust, avoid inhaling it. If you don't, if you inhale it purposely, it will invalidate the fast. What about thick steam? Does thick steam have the same ruling? What do you think and why? Yes.
Yeah, because when you're near thick steam, like you're smelling like the food or chai or something, and it's going in your body.
Scents are not a problem. If you smell the scent of food or rose water, it's not going to invalidate your fast. The scent of perfumes don't invalidate your fast. Yes, Narjis. So you're like drinking it, kind of? Okay. Let's see the answer. Based on recommended precaution, one should avoid it, which means it's best to avoid but not a must. However, it does not invalidate a person's fast if it were to be inhaled purposely. Yes, if the water particles gather in the person's mouth and they go down his throat in such a way that it's considered to be drinking, according to the urf, to the general view of the people, his fasting will be void in that case only. But generally, that doesn't happen. Generally, that doesn't happen. So in general, we can say thick steam, thick vapor will not invalidate your fast unless you know that it's going into your mouth and then turning into water and you're swallowing it. Right? So basically, you're drinking the steam. Usually, that doesn't happen. Yes?
How about the steam when you take a shower?
Have fun?
How about the steam when you take a shower?
Same hukum, same ruling. Yeah, so this ruling is important because when you take a shower, sometimes there's a lot of steam in the washroom, right? So as long as the steam, inhaling the steam isn't considered to be drinking, a type of drinking, then you are okay. Your fasting is okay. Number 6, remaining on the state of janaba willfully until the real dawn. So if a person is mujnib and before Fajr, he has to take the ghusl janaba, the ritual bath of janaba, before the real dawn. The same applies for haid and nifas. They have the same ruling as janaba, meaning if a lady's haid or nifas is over and she remains without performing the ritual bath until the real dawn, in that state, so she doesn't take the shower, her fast during that day will be void. Yes, if the haid or nifas ends and she doesn't have enough time to perform ghusl or tayammum before the real dawn, her fast will be valid. It will be okay. The 7th mufattir is rectal enema. If liquid enema is taken by a person who's fasting, his fast becomes void even if he is obliged to take it for the sake of treatment. So whenever we have liquid enema going into the body, right, through the large intestine, obviously, then it will invalidate the fast. Number 8, purposely vomiting. The fast does not become void if one vomits forgetfully or involuntarily. Sometimes you feel sick and you vomit. In that case, your fast is valid. Yes, make sure to spit out the bits and pieces of vomit that are in your mouth, because if you swallow those, it will invalidate the fast. But if a person vomits willfully, then that will be problematic. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is narrated to have said, "Man taqayya'a muta'ammidan wa huwa sa'im, faqad aftar wa alayhi al-i'adah." Whoever vomits intentionally as he's fasting will have broken his fast, and as a result, he must make it up. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, on the other hand, is narrated to have said, "In kana taqayya'a muta'ammidan fa'alayhi qada'uh, wa in lam yakun ta'ammada dhalik falaysa alayhi shay'." If a person fasting vomits intentionally, he must make up that day. However, if he didn't vomit intentionally, then he's not held accountable for anything. In other words, his fasting is valid, there is no qada and no kaffara. Any questions on the 8 mufattirat until now? Yes?
It's not about the last 8 mufattirat question. So to apply, if last if you're wrong or you're fasting, you swallow it, is your fast broken?
If you swallow it purposely, yes. Right? Yeah. If you swallow it purposely, yes. If you don't swallow it purposely, then no, it's fine. طيب. The 9th mufattir is intercourse, and the 10th one is rendering oneself in the state of janaba. So doing something that will make a person mujnib, going into that state basically. Those are the 10 invalidators. Yes, the invalidators mentioned in the 3rd chapter in our slides will invalidate the fast in case the person willfully commits them. So you eat willfully, or you inhale thick dust willfully. But if one commits an invalidator unintentionally due to unawareness, then his fasting will remain in order. Sometimes you forget that you're fasting and you drink, or you eat. Who knows, you might have a whole feast, and then you remember that you're fasting. In this case, the fast is still in order because you did not intentionally break it. You didn't intentionally do the invalidator. Sometimes you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said a certain statement. So you say Allah said so and so. Later on you find out that this is a lie. In this case, your fasting is valid because you didn't intentionally ascribe a lie to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no difference in this issue between mandatory and recommended fasts. So this verdict over here applies to both types of fasting, the mandatory and the recommended fasts. And those are the verdicts for tonight. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على المصطفى محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.